Hello, Healing Journey friends. It's been a couple weeks, I think, since I made a video because I've been having a lot of stuff come up and I've been having kind of a hard time with it. But first of all, sorry I look if I look kind of crazy, but I'm using my light because it's night. I'm out on the deck, and so if you hear some beautiful cicadas, that's what that is. But I'm sorry that it's been a couple weeks since I've made a video because some big wounds have been coming up in the last couple of weeks. Actually about the last month. The last couple videos I've made I've been really worried. I was really worried about my liver. Not worried, but I was really focused on my liver because I had been having all these liver congestion symptoms. And so I've been really focused on the liver. So I think that's where I was in the last video that I made. But I have had some realizations since then. So first of all, I think in the last video I was saying, I had this healing crisis, and but I was feeling really confident about my ability to help my liver, and I had all these tools, and I felt really calm and confident. It was this like amazing experience. And then, even after the healing crisis, or what I thought was a healing crisis, I don't know for sure, but I think that's what it was based on what I read online. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have had one. Afterwards, I was still having liver symptoms even after the healing crisis, and for weeks, and I'm still having them now. So it's like, what's going on here? Well, it's been shown to me again. Like every time it's the same thing. Every time it's not physical, it's emotional. There's something emotional coming up, and this time it's from my liver. The stuff that's coming up now, it's hard for me actually to even say it, but it's a lot of self-loathing, a lot of self-hatred. And I hate saying that. It's so painful to say because I've been focused so much on trying to learn self-love and self-compassion, and I've learned how to do self-compassion, but self-love is really hard. And you have to build trust to have love, real self-love, and you also have to be able to feel your heart, which I'm getting there. I can feel a little bit more, but please let me know. Do you guys have this? Do you have this experience of a very numb heart? My guess is yes, because a lot of people who are really sensitive, especially empaths, living in the culture that we do, having wounds, if you have any kind of trauma or wounds, like big wounds to your core self, your core being, then you had to leave your heart a long time ago. You had to protect it. But now you're an adult and you have these capabilities to heal that you didn't have when you were a kid. And so you can open your heart again. And that's what I'm trying to learn how to do. I know that I'm not alone, but sometimes experiences like this, experiences in an illness, experiences of healing from an illness, can be a really lonely experience. Almost always. I don't know any situations when it's not. And that's one of the reasons I'm making this channel. Because I don't want you guys to feel alone. I'm going through it with you. I'm trying to heal this stuff with you. I'm trying to share what I know so that it's less painful for you. But just sharing this liver stuff. One piece of information that I would need to share for this. So I think that the self-loathing has resided in my liver. And one reason that I believe that is because I went to this alternative healer who's this incredible, he's known for his diagnostic abilities. And he is the one who diagnosed me with Lyme disease and Epstein-Barr, and he gave me this long list of biological things that are going on. And he also told me that I'm highly affected by EMFs. Amazing man. And at the time, I thought it was the answers. The answers. I was like, this is it. This is the answer. I finally have like a roadmap of where to go, what to heal, like right in my hands of what to heal and where to go. I found that that was not the case, though, because what really is the core, the root of my illness is the emotional stuff, the trauma, the wounds, mostly the early life trauma, which is actually an attachment trauma. And that might be true for you. It might be another kind of trauma. I don't know. But trauma, especially for highly sensitive people or empaths, I suspect that those people are more susceptible to becoming ill from early life trauma. So this amazing man, this amazing like diagnostician, he had these amazing intuitive like ESP kind of abilities. Told me that I have a lot of autoimmunity in the lymph vessels of my liver cells. And autoimmunity has to do with self-hatred. And so the idea is that you, in theory, when you have self-hatred from trauma, you develop autoimmunity. Your body turns against you in a way because you literally have turned against yourself. And so the autoimmunity goes, and it goes to a certain organ, whatever organ you are particularly susceptible in. And that has to do with the bioenergetic field and where your weak spot is. So for me, it was my liver, and that's where my autoimmunity was housed. Now, I was never diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, but I'm making these conclusions based on what I know. That's what we do, right? We get as much information as we can, and we make conclusions on that information. It seems so clear to me. I feel like I know that this is true, that the autoimmunity in my liver will go away, will heal itself, when my self-loathing is healed. And the reason that I haven't been able to make a video for the last 2 weeks is because this self-loathing has come roaring up. Some days it's roaring, and it just feels ugly, and it's painful, and it's consuming. I don't know what to do with it, and how I used to deal with it is with food. And that's how I developed an eating disorder when I was in my early 20s or late teens. And even though I don't still have an eating disorder, those same patterns are there. I still have the same cravings to eat and eat and eat, to numb that pain. And let me know, I mean, can any of you guys relate to this? Any kind of addiction, it doesn't have to be food. Addiction to anything. It could be shopping, it could be illegal drugs, it could be anything. Any kind of addiction is a way of numbing the pain. How often is it self-hatred? I don't know, I would guess a lot of times, because it's just one of the most common wounds from trauma. And I want to say childhood trauma, because that's when we're developing. That's when self-love, self-hate, things are black and white. You have to have love, you have to have safety. And so these core wounds around love and safety can impact your entire life, your entire sense of who you are. And it's so painful for me to say self-hatred. I never, for years, I've had disordered eating, this really toxic relationship with food for, I don't know, 15 years now. And this is the first time in the last few years that I've realized really what it is. I did realize that it was related to self-hatred a while ago, a couple of years ago, but I didn't know how to heal it. I didn't know the first thing about healing it. And who does? I mean, honestly, this knowledge comes from how to heal self-hatred. It comes from, like, spiritual teachers. And that's not part of our cultural knowledge. That's not part of, I mean, or you could go to a therapist, but in order to heal it with a therapist, you have to get a really good one. One that really knows what they're doing, who's like specifically is trained in trauma healing, specifically, and potentially like somatic therapy as well. There aren't very many of those that are really focused on the emotional, like, root of stuff. So how do you heal self-loathing? That's where I am right now. This is such a big core wound for me. And is this a core wound for you? How common is this in chronic fatigue? If your root cause of chronic fatigue is emotional wounds and trauma, like from early life wounds, then it's going to be something about love or safety. And because self-loathing is such a common side effect of early life trauma, I would guess that it's really common. But for you to become aware of what it really is, what this feeling is that you have all that gets triggered, and it comes up very frequently, like gets triggered, and, you know, a symptom might just be self-doubt, like really intense self-doubt. That might be a symptom, but what's actually underneath? It's not feeling good enough. It's lacking self-love. Not having self-love. There might be a certain amount of self-loathing. And that's what's been happening to me. So while this stuff is right below the surface, or like on the surface, bubbling, it was like been some really intense days where the emotion was so intense it was hard to cope with. But then on the other days, it just sort of lurks around, and I just have a lot of self-doubt. And a really, really key thing that has allowed me to bring up this horror, toxic stuff, this one in particular, is that, you know, that what I'm calling a healing crisis with my liver, that experience shifted something in me. It really did. It shifted my mindset. Something switched when that happened. And all of a sudden, I knew that everything in this process, not just this experience with my liver, this healing crisis with my liver, it's all up and out energy. It's all up and out energy, all of it. Every emotion that comes up, every symptom that comes up, everything that I experience that is so difficult to cope with, it is up and out, which means it's coming up so that it can go out. It cannot go out until it comes up. And when it comes up, you sit with it and you feel it. And I've started saying things to myself, these comforting, I've said these to myself all along, but I've been practicing them more. I was reminded of the importance of them recently. Saying comforting things to yourself. Everything's okay. Even if you don't believe it in that moment. Learning how to be the nurturing mother or father to your little inner child who's scared to death that whatever you're experiencing, whether it's emotion or physical symptom at the time, that everything's okay. You need to feel this. This needs to come up. This is ultimately for your healing. This has to come up to come out. It has to happen. And it hurts. But it's temporary. And you're okay. Everything is okay. To tell yourself that over and over, however many times you have to. And there were a couple days in the last few weeks that I had to say it all day to myself. All day. In my head, I was saying all day, everything's okay. I'm okay. You're okay, Lauren. You're okay. You're okay. You're gonna be okay. This is for your this is for your benefit. This is for your healing. This has to happen. You have to feel this. And tell me if you relate to this. My body is absolutely brilliant at stopping the emotion from coming, from keeping myself from feeling that emotion. Does your body work like that? Does your body have these amazing defenses at feeling? My theory is that chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue happens in these people in particular, these people that have early life trauma and have developed these incredibly brilliant, amazing ways of not feeling that, because you can't feel it when you're a kid. It's too much. These trauma, things like neglect, there are so many kinds of trauma, honestly. But I just bring up the neglect one, the emotional neglect, the absence of love, where you just never feel safe, because love is safety when you're a child. It's crucial. It's crucial to feel loved and seen by your caregivers. And if you're not, it's so threatening. It's so threatening. And you can build in your body a way of being in fear, in fight or flight. You're the rest of your life. It's ingrained in you because you never feel safe. You never feel safe. No matter what situation it is, until you heal that wound, you can't feel safe. It's embedded in your cells. It's in your nervous system. And until you heal that wound yourself with adult tools and, spiritual practices, and going inside and going into that little girl, little boy self and healing that wound, it's going to stay there. There's no just getting over things. There's no just pushing it away. There's no time doesn't heal all wounds. It's not true. It doesn't. Because trauma changes your brain. Early life trauma changes your brain. It impacts the way your entire brain, your entire nervous system develops, how it's shaped, how it's formed. And that's what forms your personality. So your entire personality is formed basically formed from a traumatized brain. And so that's why this takes so much work, because you're not only healing the wounds, you're not only feeling the emotions, but you also are repatterning your behaviors, your mindset. You have to do both. You have to repattern your behaviors, repattern your mindset. At the same time that you're healing the wounds, you have to do both. You can't do one or the other. If you have early life wounds, because again, early life is when you were developing, and it impacted the way you developed, the entire trajectory that your personality, that your being, that you became. And so that's what's so beautiful. I've said this before, but this is what's so beautiful about this process, is that when you heal this stuff, you actually get to discover who you really are, and not a false persona that was created to protect you. And thank God it was created. You created it to protect you. Thank God you did that. You had to do that. You brilliant child self did that, and you had to. It's such a blessing. But as an adult, isn't it also a blessing? Isn't it this miracle that as an adult you get to discover who you are? Think about all the perspective you have as an adult. that you get to, it's so fun. Minus the pain part, but the discovery part is fun. The pain is difficult, but the discovery is fun, and it makes it worth it. It's kind of like, I just thought of like the terrible twos or something, you know, the terrible twos when you're raising kids. It's like, there's so many so difficult and challenging, frustrating parts, and like, oh my god, you just want to like rip your hair out. You just like, depending on your child and the twos that they're experiencing. But then it also struck me when I was raising my kids, that my son, that some of the most adorable parts were also the most difficult. It's like when they became the most difficult was also when their adorableness like ramped up. It's like biologically built in, because nature knows this process of terrible twos or threes or whatever happens to your child is so infuriating that you need this extra cuteness to like help your parents through it. Anyway, it just reminded me of this process, because there's so much pain in the process of bringing up these emotions that are not serving you anymore. There's so much pain there, and it's pain that you've been afraid to feel for your whole life. But then at the same time, you're discovering this self. It's like it's pulling you along, because it's like, oh, but the incentive is so great, because it's so fun to discover who I am and who I could be. Like, what's my purpose, and what, like, to have this cage breaking down. It felt like a cage to me. You tell me, like, if it feels like a cage to you. The persona that you made as a child and you developed until you became ill and you started on this process of healing, did it feel like a prison for you, or a cage? It really did for me. For my entire adult life, I just remember feeling like I was in a cage and I couldn't figure out what the cage was. It's like, I must be doing it to myself. I mean, I just couldn't figure out what it was. And now I know. It was that false persona and the rules that I had made for myself of the ways that I can and cannot be. Maybe you've done this. So, this up and out energy idea has really, really helped me as this big kahuna, as I keep calling it, has come up. Because I know that it's for my highest good, and I have to feel it. I have to feel it as the most I possibly can. In a productive way, though. It's not about feeling like a victim, feeling like you've been done to. It's not about that. It's not about sending anger towards the ones who did it or let you down. It's not about that. It's about feeling that emotion and letting it feel. Feel it as best you can. And it doesn't have to be perfect, I don't think. And that's what, I think that's been the hardest part of one of the hard parts is that I always feel like, well, how much, like, I have so many defenses, and I don't know if this is true for you. I have so many defenses that are just built in, that are automatic, that I don't know, am I feeling it enough? Like, is this enough to heal it? It feels pretty intense, but am I feeling the actual emotion, or am I feeling the defense that I've made that's also uncomfortable? I don't know the answer. And I guess I won't know the answer until I figured out how to actually heal it, which will happen when I do heal it. And I think one of the signs that I'm looking for when I've healed it, first of all, every time you heal anything, you get this little euphoria. So it's a really important thing. So to look out for, anytime you heal something, even a little bit, you'll get this little euphoric state. And it might not feel little, it might feel big. It's like, I feel like $1 million. You get these like endorphins that are released when you make some sort of breakthrough. It could be cognitive, but it's usually emotional, and you've discovered something cognitively, or you've made a breakthrough, almost like Like you've felt it, and maybe you just cried for an hour. An hour. That's a long time. I've never cried for an hour. You know, at some point, I would love to get to a point where I'm so practiced at this that I can let an emotion come up, an old emotion come up, and feel it so viscerally that I can release it all at once. Like, wouldn't that be amazing? Don't you think that'd be amazing? And so then, yeah, maybe you try for an hour or 2 hours and just release it all at once. But I've got too many this is like, it's like this old, creaky, I don't know, this old wheel that's all rusted, and it's just like, I'm like pushing with all my might. Not pushing, but I'm just trying with all my might. I don't know, my emotional might, to just let go and relax, release, let it come up. I'll also say the thing about, because this is not true of regular emotions in life, when they sit in your body for a long time and they stagnate in your body for a long time, I swear they get this, like, there's this darkness, there's this ickiness that develops when they've just been stagnated for so long. That could be completely wrong, but that is what it feels like. And so it feels harder to me when something, it's like when something hasn't moved for ages and ages and ages, like a rusty wheel, and you're trying to get it to move. It doesn't want to move. This idea, though, of up and out energy, I want you to take this. I really want you to take this for yourself. This is such a helpful way of framing it. You want it out. That phrase, better out than in. Even if it's awful, to think of it as just up and out, that it's gonna suck for a while. It really is. But once it's out, you'll never be the same. And you'll discover a new part of yourself. And a new level of energy. You know, this channel is about chronic fatigue. And this is what happens every time I heal something. The energy, I've never felt it. This is the first time in my entire life that I've actually felt legitimate energy. Now, I do not feel it. All the fatigue, the intensity of the fatigue, when an emotion is coming up, it's like I'm right back. And it's because of the defenses. They are putting up defenses. They're trying to block that energy from moving again. I've noticed that as I get more practice at it, as I do it a little better each time, not each time, but over time, the fatigue is less bad. When there is an emotion coming up, the fatigue is not as bad, especially this last one. And when I was focused on this up and out energy, it's just like the fatigue symptoms, they still sucked. I'll be honest, they did. But they were just not as bad. So if you don't take anything else from this video, I want you to take this up and out energy. I always want you to take from every video, I want you to take that you can do this. And that me, the mess over here, is doing it. And that means you can do it. When you feel alone, just watch my videos. Because you're not alone. And you're never alone. You're never alone. And even if we don't know each other personally, I have you in my heart. Because I know the suffering, and I know how painful this is. And I don't know your trauma, but I know fatigue. I know chronic fatigue, and I know the pain of having it for years and years and feeling trapped and alone. And so you're in my heart, because I know I'm not alone. I know there's so many people having the same pain around the world. If your root cause is in the emotional wounds and the trauma, I promise you, healing them you're going to discover a self that you never thought you'd know. You're somebody that you never thought you could be. You have energy you never thought you could have. You already have the stamina. You've made it this far. So yeah, healing this stuff takes a long time. But it's a hell of a lot faster. So much faster than anything, the physical things, the external things. I just can't believe how much is healed in a year. Once you start bringing this stuff up, it'll keep coming. You'll have rest periods. You'll have good periods where you get a rest and your energy's up and nothing's coming up and you feel good and you feel optimistic, and then something will come up. And it's good, because every time you're triggered is an opportunity to heal. So remember that too, that every time you're triggered is a gift. It's a gift from your soul, giving you another opportunity to heal the stuff that you haven't been able to heal yet. And it's also telling you you have what it takes to heal it now. And that's why it's coming up. If something's coming up, it means you have what it takes to heal, because your soul will not let something up that you're not ready to heal. It won't. That's why you look back 5, 10, whatever years ago, stuff wasn't coming up because you weren't ready. But when you have stuff coming up, you're ready. If you don't have stuff coming up, you can prepare your body for it. You have chronic fatigue. It's already preparing you. Your soul is already preparing you to go through this journey. I believe chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue are calls for healing. It's a calling from your soul. You can't go that way anymore. You can't live from these emotional states anymore. It's not working for you anymore. It's not serving you anymore. You're meant for greater things, different things, lighter things, happier, more joy, more. You are meant for greater things. And this is the opportunity to heal it. So it's up and out energy, everybody. Up and out energy. That's my message for today. Up and out energy. You're okay. I'm okay. Just say, if you keep saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything is okay. I'll be okay. I'm okay right now. I'm at peace with what's happening in my body. This is coming up to go out. Come up to go out. I'm going to feel it to heal it. Feel it to heal it.